Star Citizen's lore is actually pretty expansive, and CIG's narrative team expands out the universe's feel and history, but also informs a huge amount of gameplay systems and that gameplay area. Today we're going to look at a set of questions that players have asked about Star Citizen, from Pyro settlers and missions to what vermin and critters will we see in the universe, what has the Imperator been doing since they've been elected, and what does Stormwal meat taste like. It's a mixture of very gameplay relevant questions to some that are just kind of for flavour and interest. Let's jump right in. Citizens for Pyro. Previously, it's been mentioned that there will be independent homesteaders, farmers, and the like in Pyro who a lawful player might be inclined to ally with over the various gangs like the Overlords and Xenothreat. Is the Citizens for Pyro group planned to be another faction that lawful players will be able to do missions for in Pyro? Citizens for Pyro is a group of concerned citizens intent on suppressing the criminal forces who control Pyro and use it as a base of operations to attack other systems. The group began by sending forces into Pyro to hunt down criminals, but soon realised that these forays did little to address the problem. They believe that expanding the influence and size of non-gang affiliated civilian settlements within Pyro is the only way to alter the course of the system's future. The more civilians that are living in Pyro, the more commerce will occur, and the more resources will be spent on protecting those interests by improving the system's overall safety, stability, and well-being. This plan has garnered interest and support from both companies and private donors who are interested in expanding the economic opportunities in Pyro. While Citizens for Pyro has primarily been a volunteer group based outside the system, this support means that they could soon be looking for contractors to aid their goal of establishing and protecting settlements in Pyro. If you have nerves of steel and aren't afraid to take the fight to Pyro's gangs, then definitely keep an eye out for the future contracts from Citizens for Pyro. Another question. I know there is a desire to make as much unique flora and fauna as possible, but what of humanity's old frenemies? Vermin, critters, and space rodents we're talking about here. Historically, we've unintentionally shipped rats, mice, roaches, mosquitoes, etc. all over the world, and our record of accidental releases is not much better. Wild pigs, boars, rabbits, feral cats eating all the local birds, etc. While I am sure there will be other alien creatures that fill similar niches, how likely is it that we're going to see good old space rats tussling with its local equivalent in ArcCorp and other human settlements? Cloud Imperium respond. The familiar fauna you mentioned are definitely alive and well across the UEE. Space travel has been so widespread for so long that pests and parasites that have hounded humanity for ages have also found a home wherever we've established one. For all the captains who would take time to systematically vent each section of their ship to ensure no unwanted creatures were along for the ride, there would be plenty of others who would never bother. However, as humans travelled the stars and encountered new species, there has definitely been more competition for those Earth creatures, so it wouldn't be too surprising if an alien creature has taken over the vents on a space station that you'd normally expect to see a rat. We refer to such creatures as boids, and the narrative team has already created a list of some that populate the universe. In fact, we know that Cloud Imperium are working on boids currently from the monthly report. Our breakdown includes specifying the type, insect, bird, crustacean, reptile, and so forth, the biome it inhabits, a description, and if anything can be harvested from it either directly or indirectly. One of these boids, the stone bug, was introduced in the Alpha 3.18 patch. You will see those in the sand caves. They are sort of just things that you can grab and then shake. They're not really roaming around or anything. They're more of a unique stone. Meanwhile, the Ranta may not have made itself visible to players just yet, but its dry, cube-shaped dung is harvestable in-game. While common rats, roaches, mosquitoes, and other creeper crawlies are alive and well, our boids list consists of strange creatures and those that feel familiar but have a sci-fi twist to make them unique to our world. We also developed these boids in conjunction with other teams and want to ensure that they have the creative freedom to explore interesting ideas and looks. Some of the boids you'll see populating the world will be pulled from the list we've created, and others will come directly from other teams that we give a narrative spin to. So yes, the familiar little creatures that we all know and hate and love are in Star Citizen's universe, yet players will be more likely to find them in situations facing exotic boids, like by scraping hull barnacles off their ship before they cause damage, or collecting blunders for their highly corrosive vital fluids. animals in Star Citizen are coming. We do know that they're working on the Pyro sort of Cthulian crab and its offspring. Space cows, we know that they're going to be in a lot of UE places. Basically, they're like pigs. They're like cattle. You know what I mean? And they're obviously working on those smaller creatures and swarming creatures, those boids, whether they be birds or fish or insect swarms. Ranter. Another question. There is a Hurston bunker location named HDOF Palomar. What does HDOF and the other designations mean around the Hurston areas? So HDOF stands for Hurston Dynamics Operation Facility, HDMS stands for Hurston Dynamics Mining Facility, SF stands for Storage Facility, there's also ES, which is Extraction Site, and RSO, which is Remote Security Outpost. What does Stormwal taste like? So these are giant whale-like creatures that breach the gas surface of Crusader every so often. They are giant. I have no idea how they sort of fly or whatever. They're magical gas space whales, and players will be able to interact with them in the future, I believe, like scraping the barnacles off them or harvesting something on them. But Cloud Imperium tried to answer this question. It's important to note that these majestic creatures are protected by law, and Crusader security does not look kindly on poachers. As such, ethically and morally, we strongly recommend against eating Stormwal. Now, with the legalities out of the way, the most surprising thing regarding Stormwals as a food source is how comparatively little there is for their respective size. Much of their bulk is occupied by inner flight bladders, which are extremely tough and rubbery. While they don't have much flavour, they are often interesting textural elements for meals. They can be eaten raw after mechanical tenderizing or by pounding them, or they can be served cooked by thinly slicing into noodles and stewing for a very long time until it achieves a texture similar to firm gelatin. Either preparation is traditionally served in a strongly flavoured citrus dipping sauce. The cooked version of the bladder can also be fried into a crispy cracker. The other main part that can be consumed is the Stormwal's fin, which has a ring of lean dark meat known for its strong minerally flavour. A raw preparation is the most common, with the thin slices being marinated in oil, salt and spices. Particular care must be taken to slice against the grain, or the fin meat will be almost inedibly tough. Cooking the fin is not recommended, as the Stormwal's muscle fibres tend to constrict tightly together when exposed to heat, and the end result is a very dry and fibrous dish. I like the fact they've actually taken the time to think about what Stormwal tastes like and how it cooks. That's a bit silly. How is sewage dealt with is another question here. Do planets have their own processing plants that filter it into usable products, or is it shipped primarily off-world and dumped on planets like Hurston? So Cloud Imperium respond. Despite its displeasing attributes, sewage carries value in the universe. Locations would have processing facilities that filter and separate materials based on their desired usage, and those byproducts could potentially be used in numerous ways. Exactly how they're handled would be determined by the location's governing body. For example, Crusader have an advanced grey water system to keep its plants alive. ArcCorp could help fuel its planet-wide network of factories with human waste bioreactors, and Microtech could combine sewage with other products to process it into something useful, like how recycled material composite, RMC, is a byproduct of salvaging, and they can be used for minor hull repairs. Meanwhile, Hurston might deem all the solutions as too expensive and simply sell it bulk to other locations, or pay people to take it away, like with the current waste disposal missions in game. Since they're the first planet in Stanton, maybe someday they'll even be looking for contractors willing to dispose of some of those crates of waste by firing them into the sun. Miner's Lament is a racetrack in Star Citizen in the Yellow asteroid field, and it goes through like destroyed stations and all that sort of jazz. But what did it look like before the explosion happened there? What's the story there? Cloud Imperium respond. Miner's Lament is so named because it was the home of a tragic mining disaster in 2868. A small group of former Steuben Interstellar employees seeking to take advantage of the recently privatized Stanton system pooled their resources and formed their own mining consortium. After scanning multiple available claim stakes, the group decided on this location near Yella, thinking it would provide them with the quickest profit. With what funds they had remaining after purchasing the claim, they contracted out the construction of a mining facility, believing the higher volume of ore they would be able to process would offset the startup costs in the long run. However, when delays and costs overran, this sort of threatened the entirety of their operations. They decided to halt construction and utilize the partially completed station as best they could, finishing it once they had made some profits. 3 weeks in, tragedy struck. One of the facility's large storage hoppers became overpressurized when a safety release valve failed. The hoppers burst, sending ore shards and shrapnel hurtling through the facility and nearby vehicles, killing dozens of miners. The operation was shortly shut down afterwards as it was no longer functional and has remained closed in the decade since. In 2018, the claim rights reverted and the area was stripped of most of its resources by various independent operators. It was during this time when visitors to the claim began racing each other for fun until it evolved into the modern track that Wildstar members now frequent. Laylani Addison was elected as Imperator. This was actually a player vote that got Laylani Addison sort of elected, who is very favourable for AI and science and technology. But what have they done since they were put into power as Imperator? What law should we know about them? So they were elected into the position in 2950, so that's 2020 in real time, and inaugurated in early 2951. Imperator Addison faced scrutiny from the very beginning from those who wondered how she would even manage to rise to power, while others questioned how she would be able to govern as an independent. So far, her biggest political win has been declassifying regen tech and working with the Senate to make it widely available. She's also worked on her campaign promise to loosen AI restrictions by drafting the Better Act Together legislation, which would officially allow the government to fund its research. That legislation is currently stalled in the Senate, though, as the working relationship between the two branches of government has soured. The Senate has also rejected Imperator Addison's nomination of a Xi'an word, Nyahonatia, to be the UE ambassador to the Xi'an Empire. Still, Imperator Addison has made it a priority for the UE government to be more inclusive by placing Kai Jotal, a Tavaran, in her cabinet, making her the first Tavaran appointed to such a position and promoting policies that have increased Tavaran citizenship numbers. Obviously, the Tavaran have been integrated into the UE after being defeated again in the Second Tavaran War. Originally, they were sort of like bird samurai. Another question about Addison: what is the Imperator's equivalent to Air Force One? This information is highly classified since everyone flies ships strapped with weapons. The 1st Marine Combat Battalion goes to great lengths to ensure the Imperator's safe passage through the Empire. This included using a vast fleet of ships, decoy flights, and other safety protocols that remain a tightly held secret by the 1st Battalion. Unlike Air Force One, the airplane that the President of the United States traditionally travels on, there are no seats for press on flights the Imperator takes for security reasons. Members of the press would board a separate charter with secure comms to the Imperator's ship for any sort of press briefing. Last question. Are there still monarchist factions in the UE? Not specifically Messer loyalists, but those who would like to see a more traditional imperial aristocracy return to the fore. Cloud Imperium respond. Despite monarchists lacking traction on an empire-wide political stage, certain planets or states could have a system in place. The UE common laws specify that certain rights that each planet must uphold, but as long as they adhere to those standards, how they go about it is completely up to them. So a political system like the constitutional monarchy of the United Kingdom could absolutely exist in the UE, though we have yet to specify one. That being said, monarchist factions could definitely still exist in the UE. Some factions would yearn for the lost regalness and historical connection to humanity's past, while others would believe a strong leader is essential for protecting the empire and achieving political objectives with minimal interference. Despite the terrible legacy, there would be even some that crave the return of the Messer regime. In fact, the last Imperator election cycle featured a candidate who claimed to be a descendant of Ivor Messer and espoused hateful policies like kicking all the Tavarans out of the UE. Thankfully, that candidate failed to make it out of the primary round. Boom! That's it for your lore and narrative updates today. I am really excited to see Boyd's and new flora and fauna in Star Citizen. With that fauna, I'm just super excited to see fish turn up and rats and just any creatures, to be honest. We know we're getting Pyro in the not too distant future. There's going to be animals there. We know there's going to be loads of missions there as well now, loads of gangs and civilians and lots of places to do various things at these different points of interest. Are you interested in knowing these sort of narrative and lore things that are built into Star Citizen? Or do you just want the more gameplay tangible lore and information to make it into videos? Do you like the fact that Laylani Addison as Imperator was an actual player vote that got that particular candidate in and that sort of affected the lore of the game universe? Or do you think it's sort of pretty irrelevant. Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. There are so many space games. Star Citizen is obviously king. Fight me. But how do you keep yourself secure and private while in space, away from the prying eyes of Big Pirate and Big Space? NordVPN.com/BoredGamer. That gives you potentially the best protection in cyberspace. Oh, see what I did there? Stay safer online with a secure private internet connection that also helps you get access to the content you want. Let me give you some testimonials that I'll just make up now. I just turned off NordVPN and got ganked by a load of pirates. I turned off NordVPN and my legs fell off. There you have it. Get NordVPN, because if you're not going to believe those testimonials that I just made up, what are you going to believe? You can grab it from the links below. It's good and it's super cheap and I use it. There you go. Boom. Something else that's good is our ship giveaway. Salvage is the newest big gameplay loop at the moment in-game, and we want to help you get involved with that, so we're giving away a Drake Vulture light salvage ship with lifetime insurance. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during July. More details in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone that goes the extra mile in supporting the channel with the join button under our videos, or becoming a Patreon, or donating, or even just subscribing and liking and commenting on our videos and sharing them. You'll get an occasional exclusive video. There's polls and posts to get involved with. Please consider joining them, because it really, really helps us out. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any feedback, please chuck it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.